Most people think their future is decided by the big things. They think it is decided by the job title, the salary, the lucky break, the city they live in, or the people they know. But a lot of lives are not lost in big dramatic moments. They are lost in small, quiet evenings. They are lost between dinner and sleep. They are lost on the couch with a tired body, a bright screen, and a mind that says, I had a hard day, I'll start tomorrow. And that is why this matters so much. You may not be ruining your future with one terrible choice. You may be leaking it away a few hours at a time, night after night, without even seeing it. If you work all day and still feel behind in life, this is probably where the pain lives. You wake up, rush, work, answer people, solve problems, come home tired, and tell yourself you deserve a break. And of course you do. The problem is not that you need rest. The problem is that what you call rest often turns into escape. One video becomes five. One quick check of your phone becomes a full evening gone. You eat without thinking. You sit down for a minute and never get back up. Then the night ends the same way it ended yesterday. You tell yourself the day was too hard. You tell yourself next week will be better. But deep down, something hurts because you know the truth. You're not only tired, you are drifting. That feeling is heavier than people admit. It is not just wasted time. It is a quiet loss of self-respect. It is the pain of making promises to yourself and then watching yourself break them in slow motion. You say you want to read more, learn more, move your body, save money, build a skill, think clearly, sleep earlier, get your life together. But when the evening comes, the part of you that made those promises disappears. A different part takes over, a tired part, a weak part, a part that wants relief right now and does not care about tomorrow. And after enough nights like that, you start to wonder if this is just who you are. You start to fear that maybe you're the kind of person who always means well and never follows through. But the real problem goes deeper than that. What is being wasted is not only time, it is leverage. It is one of the few parts of the day that still belongs to you. Your workday often belongs to your boss, your clients, your schedule, your bills, your duties. But your evening, even if it is short, still carries your fingerprints. It still shows what kind of future you're building. This is why the title matters in a deeper way. It is not really about evenings. It is about who controls your life when the world stops controlling it for you. When no meeting tells you what to do next, when no clock is forcing you, when nobody's watching, what happens then? That answer shapes more than people think. There is a kind of hard, simple thinking. People often connect with Charlie Munger. It is not loud. It is not flashy. It does not tell you to chase every trend or become a new person in 3 days. It asks a calmer question. What are you doing over and over that quietly works against your own future? That question can change a life because once you stop looking only at what helps you and start looking at what harms you, a lot becomes clear. You begin to see that many people do not fail because they are missing some secret trick. They fail because they keep feeding the same patterns that keep them weak, distracted, broke, tired, and stuck. And the evening is where many of those patterns live. I learned that if you want better days, you have to look at your nights. If you want a better year, you have to look at ordinary Tuesdays after work, not the vacation, not the perfect morning routine you do twice a month, not the burst of motivation you feel after a podcast, the regular evening, the boring one, the one when you are tired and nobody would blame you for doing nothing. That is the moment that tells the truth because character is not built when things are easy. It is built when comfort is right there and you still choose with care. The first real shift was simple, but it changed everything. I stopped seeing my evening as leftover time. I started seeing it as decision time. That sounds small, but it changes everything. Most people treat the evening like the scraps of the day. They give their best energy to work and their best focus to other people, and then whatever remains gets handed to their own life. If there is anything left, maybe they read, maybe they plan, maybe they think, maybe they work on themselves, but usually there is not much left. So their own future keeps getting the weakest version of them. And this is where the damage begins. If your future only gets your leftovers, your future will always be weak. Your job gets your sharp mind. Your phone gets your attention. The internet gets your curiosity. Other people get your patience. Then your goals get the tired remains. A half hour of distracted effort, a broken promise, an unfinished idea, a sleepy hope. That is not enough to change a life. Not because change must be extreme, but because change needs intention. And leftovers are rarely intentional. When I started looking at evenings differently, I saw that they were not empty spaces to kill. They were small pieces of ownership. They were where I could still act on what mattered to me, even in a modest way. I did not need 3 free hours and perfect energy. I just needed to stop insulting those those hours by treating them like they did not matter. A single calm hour can hold a lot. It can hold a walk. It can hold 10 pages of reading. It can hold a real conversation. It can hold planning tomorrow instead of fearing it. It can hold a cheap homemade meal instead of spending money you regret. It can hold an early bedtime that changes your whole morning. It can hold the first small step of a better life. Most people never notice this part. They think change only counts if it looks big. They think if they cannot work out for an hour, there's no point stretching for 10 minutes. If they cannot build a business tonight, there's no point learning one useful thing. If they cannot fully fix their money, there is no point checking their spending. But life does not work that way. Life is more humble than that. Life changes through repeated proof that you can still direct your evening, repeated proof that you are not fully owned by your feelings, repeated proof that your future still matters after 6 p.m. Once I saw that, another truth became hard to ignore. Rest and escape are not the same thing. That may be one of the biggest lies behind wasted evenings. A lot of what people call rest is not actually helping them recover. It is just helping them forget. And forgetting feels good in the moment. That is why it is dangerous. You feel relief, so you call it recovery. But real recovery gives something back. It gives back energy, peace, clarity, patience, strength. Escape often does the opposite. It steals sleep, dulls the mind, fills the body with junk, drains money, and leaves guilt behind. It takes from tomorrow to make tonight feel softer. Think about how this works in daily life. You come home drained, open your phone, and start scrolling. At first, it feels like nothing, just a little break, but it is not really a break. It is endless input. Other people's lives, faces, jokes, fears, news, highlights, anger, opinions, ads, noise. Your brain does not get rest from that. It gets crowded. Or you start watching something you did not even choose with care. One episode turns into 3 because choosing to stop is harder than letting it continue. Or you start spending small amounts of money to feel better. Delivery food, random shopping, tiny comforts. None of them look serious alone, but put them together across months and years, and they are very expensive. What looks harmless today becomes expensive later. That is true with money, and it is true with time. The food is not just food, it is also lost health and lost savings. The late night is not just a late night, it is also tomorrow's fog. The scroll is not just a scroll, it is also weaker focus. The lazy evening is not just one evening, it is a vote. It is a lesson your brain is learning. It is teaching you what kind of person you are when you are free. And if your free hours always end in numbness, your mind starts to expect numbness. It starts to run there automatically. That is why the next change mattered so much. I stopped deciding what to do in the evening when the evening had already started. I made the choice earlier. This is the part most people miss. They try to win a fight at the exact moment they are weakest. They wait until they are tired, hungry, mentally worn out, and already sitting on the couch before asking, "What should I do tonight?" That question is too late for most people. Fatigue has already voted. Comfort has already won. You're not making a fresh choice then, you're just obeying the strongest feeling in the room. So I learned to decide before the tired version of me took control. Not a perfect plan, not a packed schedule, just one clear idea, one thing the evening would be for. Some nights it was simple. Tonight is for sleep. Tonight is for walking and stretching. Tonight is for cleaning the kitchen and reading 10 pages. Tonight is for reviewing spending and planning tomorrow. Tonight is for 30 minutes of learning. That was enough. The goal was not to turn the evening into another job. The goal was to remove the fog, because fog is where waste grows. Most people think discipline means having strong will in the moment, but often discipline is just making fewer choices when you are tired. It is choosing while you are still clear. It is setting up a small path and then stepping into it later. This matters because evenings are full of traps that do not feel like traps. The TV is easier than deciding. The bed is easier than effort. The phone is easier than thought. A snack is easier than a plan. When you do not choose ahead of time, ease chooses for you. And ease is not evil. It just has no concern for your future. There is a special kind of sadness that comes from living by default. Nothing looks terrible from the outside. You are not in crisis. You are not failing in some dramatic way. But inside, you know you are not steering. You know your life is being shaped by whatever's easiest in the moment. That creates a quiet fear, because if easy keeps winning every night, what happens in 5 years? What happens to your money, your body, your mind, your confidence, your dreams? Most people do not ask that question because the answer hurts. But the answer is the reason change matters. Planning the evening early did not make me perfect. It made me honest. It showed me what I was really willing to do. Some nights the goal was tiny because that was the truth of my energy. Fine, tiny still counts. The plan did not need to impress anyone. It just needed to protect the night from disappearing. Sometimes the win was as small as no phone during dinner and being in bed on time. Sometimes it was writing a page. Sometimes it was putting tomorrow's clothes out, making lunch, and cleaning the sink. These things sound ordinary because they are, but ordinary things decide whether your life feels steady or chaotic. And once that became clear, I saw another layer. I could not go straight from work mode into growth mode. I needed a reset. Work had to end in my body, not only on the clock. This may be one of the biggest reasons people waste their evenings. Their job ends, but their mind does not. Their body comes home, but their stress comes too, so they try to fix that stress with fast comfort. Food, screens, noise, mindless entertainment, random spending, staying up too late. It is not because they are lazy, it is because they never close the day. That is why one of the most useful things I did was build a small wall between work and evening, a reset ritual, not some fancy routine, just a simple signal that one part of the day was over and another part was beginning. It could be a short walk after getting home, a shower, changing clothes right away, sitting quietly for 10 minutes, putting the phone away and making tea, breathing in the car before going inside, writing down the top thoughts still spinning in the mind. It did not matter much what the reset was. What mattered was the message. Work is over. I am here now. I do not need to carry every problem into the rest of the night. That sounds small, but it changes everything. Without a reset, the evening feels like a continuation of stress. And when the evening feels like more stress, of course, the brain looks for escape. But when the brain gets a clear signal that the hard part of the day is done, it becomes easier to choose wisely. You stop acting like you are still under attack. You stop needing the whole night to anesthetize yourself. You can actually enter your evening instead of collapsing into it. A lot of adults never learn how to come home. They know how to leave the house. They know how to perform. They know how to answer messages, hit deadlines, and push through the day, but they do not know how to return to themselves. So even when the house is quiet, they are not calm. Even when there is free time, they do not feel free. Their mind is still noisy. Their body is still tight. Their mood is still hanging from whatever happened at work. That is why rest does not work, because a restless mind cannot be restored by more stimulation. And this has effects beyond productivity. It touches your relationships too. If you never reset, the people at home receive the leftover tension of your whole day. Your partner gets the short answer, your child gets the distracted nod, your own mind gets the scraps. Then the night becomes another place where you feel you failed, not because you meant harm, but because you arrived in a broken state and never repaired it. A short reset can soften all of that. It can turn the evening from a spillover zone into a living space. Now there is another layer to this. Once I stopped treating the evening like dead time, once I planned it early, and once I built a reset, I still faced one more problem. I was trying to do too much. This is where many smart people lose the battle. They finally realize, their evenings matter. And then they turn those evenings into a second job full of impossible goals. Work out hard, cook perfectly, read deeply, build a side business, call family, journal, study, meditate, sleep early, and do it all every night. That plan does not respect real life. It does not respect fatigue. It does not respect human nature. It breaks, and when it breaks, people go back to zero. So another change mattered more than I expected. I stopped trying to save my whole life in one evening. I chose one non-negotiable, just one thing that had to happen, even in a small form. This was powerful because it gave the night a backbone. The evening no longer had to be amazing. It just had to contain one act of self-respect, one act that said, I still keep a promise to myself. That could be reading 10 pages, saving money by eating what was at home, walking for 20 minutes, studying a skill for half an hour, Cleaning the room instead of pretending chaos was normal, going to sleep on time, one non negotiable. This is the part most people misunderstand about discipline. Discipline is not mostly about intensity, it is about continuity. It is not about proving how hard you can go for 3 nights. It is about proving you can still do the right thing on the boring night, the stressful night, the low energy night, the night nobody sees. When you keep one small promise again and again, you repair something deep inside. You rebuild trust with yourself. And self trust is a huge part of momentum. People with strong self trust do not feel perfect. They simply believe their own word means something. Think about the opposite. What happens when you keep telling yourself you will start and you do not? At first, it feels normal. Everyone procrastinates, everyone slips, but over time, it creates a hidden wound. Your mind begins to doubt you. Every new goal sounds fake because the old ones were abandoned. Every plan feels weak because it has no proof behind it. You stop getting excited about your own intentions because you have heard them before. This is why wasted evenings hurt more than lost hours. They train you not to believe yourself. A single non-negotiable begins to undo that damage. It is small, but it is powerful. It says, I may be tired, but I'm not absent. I may not control everything, but I still control this. Once that becomes normal, your whole posture changes. You walk into the next day feeling a little cleaner inside, not because the result was dramatic, but because you did not betray yourself. And that inner steadiness matters more than people think. Many adults are not lacking information, they are lacking internal trust. They know what to do, they just no longer trust themselves to do it. Another thing changed when I focused on one small promise. I stopped chasing the feeling of a perfect evening. A lot of wasted time comes from this hidden fantasy that if the night cannot be ideal, it might as well be thrown away. If there is not enough time for a full workout, skip movement. If there's not enough focus to study for an hour, scroll. If there's not enough energy to cook something healthy, order something careless. That kind of thinking sounds harmless, but it destroys consistency. It turns real life into a series of all or nothing choices, and all or nothing almost always ends in nothing. Real progress is often ugly and plain. 10 pages with a tired brain still count. A slow walk still counts. A simple meal still counts. Going to bed before midnight still counts. Putting money aside instead of spending for comfort still counts. You do not need to be amazing every evening. You need to stop making zero feel normal, because zero repeated many times becomes a life pattern. It becomes identity. It becomes the story you live inside. And once you see that, the whole picture changes. The evening is not asking for greatness. It is asking for direction. It is asking you to stop handing yourself over to the easiest force in the room. It is asking you to leave a mark on the day that says you were present in your own life. But there was still one more thing I had to learn. Willpower is weak at night. That is not an excuse. It is just something worth respecting. By evening, your brain has made many choices, handled many emotions, carried many demands. So if your environment is built for waste, waste will happen. If the first thing you see is a couch, a remote, snacks, and your phone, then the night is already leaning away from your future. This is where a lot of people get unfairly harsh with themselves. Now, they call themselves lazy when really they are just standing inside a system that keeps pulling them down. So I stopped relying only on motivation and started shaping the room around me. I made wasting time a little harder and good choices a little easier. That sounds almost too simple, but it is one of the most practical changes a person can make. Put the phone in another room, log out of the apps that eat your time, keep a book where your hand naturally goes, lay out workout clothes before you leave for work, put simple food in reach so dinner does not become a spending decision. Keep a notebook on the table. Keep the lights softer later in the evening so your body can feel sleep coming. Remove the things that turn one lazy minute into 3 lost hours. People love to talk about self-control like it is a personal trait, but in daily life, friction matters a lot. If something mindless is easy, you will do more of it. If something useful is easy, you will do more of that. This is not deep theory. It is just human nature. A person with chips on the counter eats differently from a person with fruit on the counter. A person who sleeps with the phone next to the bed wakes up differently from a person who leaves it across the room. A person who keeps spending apps open and ready buys differently from a person who creates a small pause before payment. Tiny obstacles can save you from big regret. And this matters especially after work because the evening mind loves convenience. The tired mind does not want to argue. It wants the shortest path, so give it a better shortest path. Make the right thing obvious. Make the wrong thing slightly annoying. You do not need to create pain. You just need to stop creating a smooth highway to your worst habits. This can even change money without feeling like a money plan. A lot of people waste evenings and then waste money because of it. They are tired, so they order food. They are bored, so they shop. They feel low, so they buy treats, gadgets, subscriptions, and little comforts. None of it looks huge, but it is very easy to spend your future in small, tired moments. The evening has a strange power over money because tired people often spend for relief, not value. They do not ask, "Is this useful?" They ask, "Will this make tonight easier?" And that is how comfort quietly becomes expensive. When you begin shaping your evening with more care, your money often gets calmer too. You cook more often because you planned. You buy less because you're less emotionally hungry. You stay home with more peace instead of searching for a feeling at the store or on an app. You sleep earlier, so late night spending goes down. You think more clearly, so impulse loses some of its power. Again, the point is not perfection. The point is that a peaceful evening is often a cheaper evening, and a chaotic evening is often a costly one. Now there is a deeper truth under all of this, and this may be the most important part. The best evenings are not always the most fun in the moment. They are the ones you respect in the morning. That shift changed how I judged my nights. I stopped asking, "Did tonight feel easy?" I started asking, "Will tomorrow thank me for this?" That one question can cut through so much confusion, because many bad evening choices feel good now and bad later. Many good evening choices feel slightly hard now and good later. If you always choose by tonight's feeling, you will often betray tomorrow's life. This is close to the kind of long-range thinking wise people often practice. They are not always asking what feels best right now. They are asking what becomes true later because of what I do now. That is not cold thinking. It is caring thinking. It is caring enough about your future self to stop borrowing from them all the time. When you stay up too late, tomorrow pays. When you overspend for comfort, next month pays. When you skip every useful habit, the next year pays. Somebody always pays. The only question is whether you pay now in a small, honest way or later in a larger, painful way. Most people keep choosing the second kind of payment. They avoid small discomfort now and walk into bigger discomfort later. That is the secret behind many average lives. Not terrible choices, delayed costs. The little cost of getting up for a walk feels annoying, so they skip it. The cost of not moving then becomes lower energy and poorer health later. The small cost of reading or learning feels boring, so they avoid it. The cost later becomes slower growth and fewer options. The small cost of budgeting feels restrictive, so they ignore it. The cost later becomes stress and thin savings. The small cost of sleeping on time feels like missing out, so they stay up. The cost later becomes exhaustion and lost focus. It is the same pattern again and again. And this is why evenings can quietly divide people who look similar on the surface. Two people can have the same job, the same salary range, the same age, and the same complaints. During the day, they may even look equally responsible, but after work, their paths begin to separate. One person gives every evening to relief without direction. The other protects one small part of the night for their future. Not perfectly, just consistently. After a week, the difference is hard to see. After a month, it is still modest. After a year, it becomes real. One person has more peace, more trust in themselves, maybe better sleep, maybe more savings, maybe a new skill, maybe a stronger body, maybe a calmer home. The other person has many reasons, many intentions, and the same old frustration. This is why compounding matters in normal life. Compounding is just small things growing while most people are not paying attention. It is not only about money, it is about identity, energy, focus, and trust. A small evening habit does not look powerful tonight, but repeated enough times, it becomes a different kind of person. The person who reads a little becomes more thoughtful. The person who walks a little becomes more active. The person who plans a little becomes less chaotic. The person who sleeps a little earlier becomes more alive in the morning. The person who keeps one promise a night becomes someone who believes themselves. These gains are easy to ignore because they arrive quietly, but so do losses. That is another thing people miss. Waste compounds, too. Late nights compound, cheap dopamine compounds, unplanned spending compounds, clutter compounds, broken promises compounds, stress compounds. So if you do not use your evenings with care, you are not standing still. You are moving, just not in the direction you want. A lot of people think doing nothing means nothing happens. That is not true. When you do nothing on purpose, something still happens by accident. The accident is just slower, so it feels safe. There's also a social side to this that makes it harder. Many adults are surrounded by a culture that tells them every hard day must be rewarded with easy pleasure. You worked hard, so indulge. You are stressed, so numb out. You deserve it. The word deserve is used in strange ways. Sometimes you do deserve comfort, you deserve peace, you deserve rest, you deserve laughter, but many people do not give themselves real rest. They give themselves sedation. They give themselves habits that leave them weaker. They give themselves a kind of comfort that slowly empties the next day. That is not a reward. It is a trade that looks good only because the bill comes later. You deserve more than sedation. You deserve an evening that does not leave you ashamed. You deserve sleep that helps you, food that respects you, silence that settles you, habits that strengthen you, a room that does not feel like defeat, a night that closes with some dignity. That may sound too serious for something as ordinary as after work hours, but that is exactly the point. Ordinary hours carry serious consequences. Now, to be fair, real life is not clean. Some people come home to children, long commutes, second jobs, noise, caregiving, and deep fatigue. Some evenings are not really open. Some seasons of life are heavy. So this is not about becoming extreme. It is not about turning home into a productivity lab. It's not about squeezing value out of every minute until you become hard and joyless. That would miss the point. The point is not to remove rest. The point is to remove mindlessness. The point is not to become harsh. The point is to become intentional. That matters because perfectionism is another hidden way of wasting time. If your standard is too high, you often do nothing. If you believe a good evening must include a full routine, a spotless kitchen, a perfect workout, deep study, and total calm, then many normal evenings will fail before they begin. But if a good evening only needs one meaningful act and a little awareness, then you can still win inside a busy life. A parent can still win with 10 minutes of planning and an earlier bedtime. A tired worker can still win by skipping the scroll and taking a short walk. A stressed person can still win by making tomorrow easier instead of tonight easier. Progress has to fit reality, or it does not last. This is where compassion and discipline have to work together. Discipline without compassion becomes punishment. Compassion without discipline becomes excuse. You need both. You need enough compassion to admit that evenings are hard, and you need enough discipline to say that hard does not mean hopeless. The best changes often come from that middle place, not from self-hate, not from fantasy, from steady honesty. And honesty reveals something painful but useful. A lot of wasted evenings are not caused by a lack of time. They are caused by avoidance. You do not want to think about money, so you keep watching things. You do not want to feel how unhappy you are with your body, so you keep snacking. You do not want to face how disconnected you feel, so you fill the room with noise. You do not want to admit you are afraid of trying, so you say you're too tired to begin. This is not said to shame you. It is said because naming the real thing gives you power. Many evening habits are not random. They are shields. But shields have costs. The thing you avoid during the evening often returns at night in another form. Anxiety, restlessness, guilt, Sunday dread, low confidence. That is because hidden problems do not disappear when you distract yourself. They just wait. Sometimes the bravest use of an evening is not doing something huge. It is sitting still long enough to see what you keep running from. Sometimes what looks like laziness is really fear wearing sweatpants. And once you see that, the solution becomes more human. You do not need to punish yourself into better evenings. You need to make your evenings safe enough for truth and structured enough for progress. Safe enough to admit what hurts. Structured enough that the hurt does not swallow the night. This is why small rituals help so much. They make the evening feel held. They reduce the chaos. A cup of tea, a short walk, one promise kept, a phone put away, a notebook opened, lights dimmed, bedtime protected. These things seem tiny, but they tell the nervous system we are not lost. We still have a way. There's also something powerful about boredom that most people never let themselves experience anymore. Boredom is not always bad. Sometimes boredom is the doorway to a better evening. When you stop filling every free minute with quick stimulation, your mind slowly wakes up in a different way. At first, it feels uncomfortable. You reach for the phone, you want noise, you want distraction. But if you stay with the quiet, your own thoughts start to return. You remember what actually matters. You notice ideas. You feel emotions that got buried under scrolling. This can be uncomfortable, but it is also where real life begins again. A person who cannot be still is easy to control. Every app controls them. Every urge controls them. Every mood controls them. Every ad controls them. Every tired feeling controls them. But a person who can sit in a plain evening without immediately escaping becomes stronger in a quiet way. They begin to choose, not just react. And reacting less is a big part of why some people seem calmer and steadier than others. It is not that they have easier lives, it is that they have fewer automatic responses. That is why one of the hidden benefits of better evenings is not just productivity, it is freedom. Freedom from compulsion, freedom from the constant need to feed every feeling right away, freedom from the idea that being tired means being helpless, freedom from the script that says, the day used you up, and now the night can do whatever it wants with you. That freedom is deeply valuable. It is hard to measure, but you feel it. You feel it when you can come home and not instantly surrender. You feel it when the night belongs to you again. There's a simple way to think about all this. Your evenings either repair you or they erode you. They either make tomorrow a little easier or a little harder. They either build trust or weaken it. They either move you closer to the person you respect or keep you stuck with the habits that quietly embarrass you. Not every night will be beautiful. Not every night will be useful in the obvious sense. But every night leans somewhere. And this is where identity enters the picture. Identity is not just what you say about yourself, it is the story your repeated actions tell. If every evening says, I am a person who gives up when tired, then that story becomes more believable. If every evening says, I am a person who needs comfort more than I need growth, that story becomes your normal. But if your evenings begin to say, I am a person who can still choose one good thing, then a new identity starts forming, not from affirmations, from evidence. That may be the deepest reason these changes matter. Better evenings do more than improve time use. They change who you think you are. They slowly turn discipline from something you admire in others into something you practice in small, private ways. They turn self-control from a dramatic idea into a daily habit. They turn growth from a fantasy into a pattern. And once that shift happens, many other things become easier. You handle money better because you trust yourself more. You handle food better because you're less ruled by impulse. You handle mornings better because nights are cleaner. You handle goals better because your word has more weight. This does not happen in one week. That is important to understand. If you have spent years wasting evenings, the first better night can feel almost too small to matter. But that is how change often begins. Quietly, not with a big emotional moment, but with a small refusal. A refusal to disappear again. A refusal to numb again. A refusal to spend another whole night proving your future does not matter. One cleaner evening does not transform a life, but it interrupts a pattern, and interrupted patterns are where new lives start. You may still have nights when you fall back. Of course you will. There will be hard weeks, bad moods, stress, illness, family demands, disappointment, and plain old exhaustion. The goal is not to become a machine. The goal is to notice faster and return faster, to stop turning one bad evening into a bad month, to stop using one slip as proof that nothing works. That is another trap people fall into. They break the habit once and then hand the whole week over to failure. But one drift does not define you, the return does. In fact, a big part of maturity is learning how to recover without drama. You waste a night. Fine, see it clearly, learn from it. Adjust the room, the plan, the bedtime, the dinner, the phone, the expectation, then return. No self-hate speech, no fake restart on Monday, just return. Adults who grow are not adults who never fail. They are adults who stop turning failure into identity. It also helps to remember what you are really protecting. You are not protecting a routine just to feel morally superior. You are protecting your future energy, your savings, your focus, your health, your relationships, and your self-respect. You are protecting the version of you that wants a calmer life. the version that does not want to live in reaction forever, the version that is tired of regret. When you frame it that way, better evenings stop feeling like deprivation. They start feeling like defense. This is also why sleep deserves more respect than it often gets. Many wasted evenings do not look dramatic. They just run too long. The phone stays in the hand too long. The show keeps playing. The snacks keep coming. Midnight becomes 1 in the morning. Then the next day begins with debt. Sleep debt, mood debt, focus debt. And when the next evening comes, you are even weaker. This loop traps a lot of people. They are tired because they waste evenings, and they waste evenings because they are tired. One of the strongest ways to break that cycle is simply to protect the end of the night, not because sleep is glamorous, because it gives tomorrow a chance. And there is another truth hidden there. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do after work is go to bed earlier, not in a lazy way, in a wise way. There are nights when your body does not need another plan. It needs repair. A lot of damage comes from insisting on squeezing one more hour out of a drained mind. Better to close the day with discipline and rise with more strength than to drag the night out and call it freedom. Late night freedom often becomes morning punishment. When you begin thinking this way, even simple choices feel different. Making food at home is not just about food. It is a way of telling tomorrow, I did not spend my money and energy carelessly. Cleaning one room is not just cleaning. It is a way of reducing tomorrow's friction. Reading one chapter is not just reading. It is a way of refusing mental junk. Turning the phone off is not just less screen time. It is reclaiming attention from people and systems that profit from your drift. A short walk is not just steps. It is proof that your body still matters after work. A calm conversation is not just talking, it is choosing connection over numbness. This is why the evening can become a place of quiet power, not because big things happen there every night, but because it is one of the clearest places where values become visible. You say you care about your future. Fine. What happens after dinner? You say you want peace. Fine. What do you feed your mind before bed? You say you want better money, better health, better focus, better character. Fine. How do your evenings vote? Harsh question, but honest. And honesty is often kinder than avoidance. Avoidance comforts now and hurts later. Honesty can sting now and free you later. If your evenings have been hurting you, admit it without drama. Maybe you've been calling escape rest. Maybe you've been letting your phone act like the owner of your nights. Maybe you've been spending because you feel empty. Maybe you've been staying awake because you do not want tomorrow to start. Maybe you've been too hard on yourself and then giving up completely. Whatever it is, truth is not there to crush you. It is there to show you the next clean step. That next step does not need to be complicated. It might just be this. Decide tonight before tonight begins. Create a reset. Keep one promise. Change the room. Judge the night by tomorrow. Those ideas sound plain because they are plain. But plain things often work because they fit real life. Big dramatic systems often fail tired people. Small, clear principles often survive. And there is something deeply hopeful in that. It means your life does not need a huge rescue. It may need a series of smaller, honest choices. It may need less fantasy and more steadiness, less intensity and more repetition, less self-judgment and more self-respect, less entertainment by default and more intention by design. That kind of change is hard, but it is realistic. It does not ask you to become someone else. It asks you to stop abandoning yourself every evening. Imagine the cost of never learning this, not some giant tragedy, something quieter. Years pass. You stay decent at work, but feel strangely behind in your own life. Your savings are thinner than they should be because comfort spending kept winning. Your body feels older than it should because movement kept getting delayed. Your mind feels noisier than it should because silence never had room. Your confidence stays low because your promises stayed weak. Nothing fully collapses, but nothing fully grows either. That is a painful life because it is close enough to normal that most people never fight it. Now imagine a different path, not perfect, not extreme, just better directed. You come home and know what the first 10 minutes are for. Your phone stops eating the whole evening. You keep one promise most nights. You sleep a little earlier. You spend a little less out of emotion. You read or learn a little more. You feel less chaos because tomorrow is prepared before the night ends. After a while, something shifts. You no longer feel like life is only happening to you. You feel involved again. You feel capable again. You feel less ashamed and more steady. And from that steadiness, bigger changes become possible. This is why the evening matters so much. It is not because every night must be heroic. It is because evenings reveal whether you are still in conversation with your future or only with your cravings. They reveal whether you are building a life or only recovering from one. They reveal whether comfort is serving you or leading you. And if you do not like what they reveal, that is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of responsibility. Responsibility is not a heavy word here, it's a freeing one. It means your nights are not cursed, they are not fixed, they are not doomed to vanish just because work was hard. They can be shaped, maybe not perfectly, maybe not fully, but enough to change direction, enough to protect what matters, enough to stop the silent leak. So if you are tired of ending the day with guilt, remember this. You do not need to win the whole night. You need to stop surrendering the whole night. You need one clear choice that respects tomorrow, one boundary that protects your attention, one habit that rebuilds trust, one reset that tells your body the workday is over, one less excuse dressed up as rest. That is where real change starts. The strange thing is that once you stop wasting your evenings, you often stop wasting more than evenings. You waste less money, less energy, less attention, less self-belief, less time recovering from your own choices. The hours after work are like a mirror. When they get cleaner, many parts of life start getting cleaner too. So tonight, before the tired version of you takes over, pause for a moment and ask a simple question. What would make tomorrow easier, calmer, and more respectable? Then do that, even if it is small, especially if it is small. Small done often is how ordinary people quietly stop living below their own standards. If this made you think about your own evenings, take that seriously. You do not need a dramatic restart. Just begin with one honest change tonight and let that be enough to start.